Let's loom knit your sweater. Today is part 5 of 6, the collar.
Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches.
We're ready for part 5 where you're going to be working on your collar. This is a cowl type collar. You can make it in the round or you can make it flat and either seam it together like the original, or you can leave it open where it just kind of splays open and you have this kind of cool funky inside, or even do it partially or add in your own buttons or toggles to it. You have that option if you like it. We've got our front, we have our back, and our 2 sleeves, and all we're missing is sewing it up together and also that collar up above. We do have 3 collar options. I will cover that today. We'll also cover sewing up the shoulders because they have kind of a stair step look, but I do want to first talk about blocking and weaving in tails and why that is important. So before we do, I'm going to get to some of your supplies. You're going to need a couple of yards of yarn for sewing up on the shoulders. You're also going to need your regular yarn. You'll need, of course, some scissors and a tapestry needle, and you might want a crochet hook because we're also going to clean up the edge here on any ribbing. So if your cast on edge is a little bit loopy and you want it to be a nice firm clean edge that's still stretchy, we're going to do that here in a moment. But I want to talk to you about blocking and why it's important, because once we block these and sew it up, the sewing and the sweater will be about the same stretchiness and consistency. If you wait to block it after you've sewn it, it could be a tight seam and then a loose sweater. And also if you block it when they're in pieces, you don't have to worry about the sweater all as one big piece, and you would need to turn your sweater inside out and block it inside out later on because of all the seams. So here's the quick link down below to how to wet block, but the very fast way to tell you is you just want to take some nice clean water and put your piece in there, hold it underneath the water, kind of squeeze a little bit until just kind of lightly until basically all the bubbles come out. It could be like 15 minutes before all those little bubbles come out. That means it's nice and good and soaked. And when you pull it out, you can lightly squeeze it and get the water out. You can roll it lightly in a towel. You don't want to rub on it because you don't want this to felt, okay, with that friction. And then you're just going to lay it out on a towel, all the pieces separate, nice and flat. You don't even have to pin it. If you do, you need some rust-proof pins that won't do that. And then let it just dry. It may take a day or two to dry. Just air dry is fine. And yeah, that's all you need to do. So go click on that video down below to do that. We're going to clean up this cast on edge. So you're just going to be going along any ribbed edge that looks like the loops are either inconsistent or maybe just a little bit big and you don't want them to catch on anything. Here's an edge where I have already cleaned it up a bit. I just basically, I'm pulling on these stitches to make all these little loops a little bit smaller and even, but I have to do it in a certain sequence so that it goes all the way down towards where my tail is, and it's even throughout the whole thing. So I'm going to set this one aside, and I'm just using a blunt tapestry needle. You can use a crochet hook, but I found that the needle gets into the places where I need. This one has a little bit of an angle on it. It doesn't really matter. I come down to the very end, and you can also see this yarn is a little bit hairy. This very last stitch here seems to be pretty even. I'm just going to go ahead and tug on it a little bit. Okay, and then when I tug on this, now part of what is happening here, I start pulling on to see where that yarn is coming from. Okay, so which part pulls on either side of my fabric. Okay, so this one's probably okay, but I'm going to grab this one that's nice and big. So we're going to pull that. All right, and then this part's tight, so I'm going to grab this end of the loop and I tug on that, and I know that here on this side is where it comes from. So I'm going to pull it until it gets tighter up on the top. You see how it's tighter up here now? Now I pulled on this side of the loop going this direction. So now this part is going to have to go upwards here and this top loop here. So see when I pull on that one, and it makes this loop down here tighter. Now I'm going to go to this one, and because I knew I was on this front side before, I can come down here, and it's going to be, it should be this one. Whoops. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. It's this little loop here. You just have to tug and play with your work to see where it naturally occurs in yours. It may be harder to see here on this video. It may look slightly different with yours. I'm going to get down an area that doesn't have so much of this kind of hairiness where it got a little bit rubbed. If I pull back, you can see there's a little loop here. It looks like a purl bump. And when I pull on that, you can see it kind of tug here. Sometimes I just grab my fingers, when I grab the loop with my fingers here and just kind of gently tug on it. And then now I'm going to pull this loop. Okay. And then get this one. So as I go, you can see that this loop is getting larger and larger. See that? So I'm just pulling the extra slack out and just pulling it until it's nice and even. So these are going to be tighter on this side because it's the back of the knitting, and these ones are along the edge of my knitting. Okay. So I have to work with the stitches along the back side and along the edge. All right, so go ahead and play with yours. And when you get a few stitches down to the end of your knitting, then we'll meet back up. So I'm going to keep working on mine. You keep working on yours. Pause your video when you're ready to meet at the last few stitches. I'll see you there. All right, we'll see you soon. All right, as you can see, I've got this big loop here. It's actually about 3 inches long, so it's actually 6 inches total. I've got a few stitches left, and I've already pulled this one tight, so this one is going to come from, let's see, this stitch here. And as I get down to the end, I'm trying to pinch and hold on these other stitches, and I want to keep this tail where it is. Because sometimes I can get a little confused, so I need to make sure I know this tail is remaining where it is, and you'll see why in a second. So now I need to pull this stitch here. This is the long tail cast on, and so this might be slightly different if you use a different one, like say a chain cast on. Okay, this one right here, just tug on it. When you get closer to the end, it might be harder to tell, so just tug it and see which stitch pulls. You see how you can see that one? And that's why I use the tapestry needle, because I can just get at it easier. We pull it. Okay, this part could look like it makes some stitches that kind of go down a little bit, and so that's why I'm going to pull this tail out of the way, and then we just slightly tug on this one. There's that long part. Okay, so now this part's the one where I have to find the other side of it. There's my tail. So let's see. I just pulled that one. Now I got to find the other side of this one. So let's see if I pull that. That one is that. Okay. So that's the other part. We're going to get that out. Okay, now I should be able to pull my tail to get the slack out. And there we go. So we have now gotten this part nice and a nice firm edge. It looks good, except we can still stretch it. All right, so let's retain the stretchiness. We're going to turn this over and go ahead and put our tapestry needle in. So we're going to weave this in so where it remains stretchy. We're going to go up underneath this little bump here to this first column, where you can see the knit stitches. You see the V's going all the way up like this. So we're going to go up underneath this first V, pull through, and now you see the second V. We're going to go underneath that part towards the middle, come up, and do the same thing. Just one stitch at a time and pull it up. Another way to do it, if you have a bent tapestry needle, it works really well. You can just go into the stitch and swivel and rotate your needle and go around and under and up through that stitch. So I'm going to go around, under, and up through the middle, around, under, up through the middle, and see what happens when we pull it. It just goes right up through there, and I kind of tug on it, give it that extra slack, just have a last couple stitches to go. It actually goes really nicely. And then just go up underneath these stitches here okay? And then go into your stitch pattern. You can just weave that tail into the main stitch pattern now, okay? So I just come through and just do my regular type of stitching where I just go follow the purl bumps, and I go around my stitches here, and I'll go down an inch or two and come back and then trim that off, and it's still nice and stretchy. All right, let's go for the next part of the video. See you soon. All right, we're ready to begin the collar part of our pattern. We have the front laying here, and then we have the back, and I've got the back just facing right side down, and we're going to be sewing up the shoulder together first, and it's kind of a stair-stepped type of seam, so we're going to do that together, and it's going to be on the left side of your screen. If you're a right-handed knitter, it's actually your right shoulder on your knitting, and if you're a left-handed knitter, it's just going to be reversed on the screen. And yes, it's okay to be starting on the other side. We're all going to be working from one shoulder sewed up, picking up stitches, then we're going to place stitches back on, pick up more stitches, and then work in the back. Before you begin though, you need to make sure if you want to be working in the round or if you want to work a flat collar. So in the round is working a cowl collar that just continues to go around and around. It doesn't have a seam. The original pattern has a seam, and I just didn't like it as much, and I thought it'll be easier working in the round. If you want to do it flat, I will talk to you about that, and let's go to the pattern to see what I'm talking about here and get your information for the loom that you need. All right, be sure and click down the links below to get the updated pattern, and go to the notes section and you'll see the collar options. Be sure and read through on that. But we have a flat knit cowl, or you can do a cowl in the round. The flat versions, you can choose one of three options. You can make the cowl like I talked about, flat back and forth and have a seam, which you'll be able to see. Or you can do an open collar, which is working back and forth and sewing up either partially or leaving completely open, where it's splayed out and partly folded down towards the front and towards the back, you know, on the side, like pointed towards one shoulder. Or you could do one where you add some closures. Now, some of those, there's some choices that you have to make for yourself. We won't be doing that on this video, but read these up and see which decision you want to make. So I will be working the one in the round and of course giving some notes for making it flat. And we're going to look at part 5 for the collar. The flat panel collar setup, you're going to use a loom with at least 67 or 71 pegs. So 67 for the small medium and 71 for the larger 4 sizes. And for the one in the round, you just need 1 peg less. You're going to be using a loom with exactly 66 pegs for the small and medium and 70 pegs for the larger 4 sizes. We're going to be sewing the right shoulder seam first, so let's just do that first, and then we'll be picking up our stitches here in a minute. I am going to refer to this pattern off to the side. I may not pull it in on every segment, but make sure you do have this because it'll make sense to refer to the written directions. All right, see you in a moment. All right, we're going to do our stair step seam. You can see that it steps up here. It's actually stepping down and making it reduced up here. And we want to move our stitches in each column. We're going to go 1 row at a time to get it lined up so it looks like it's going at a slight angle, okay? We're going to do that on both sides here at the same time. So put our wrong sides together. We're going to work from the next side down, so the taller part down. You can do it the opposite as well. It's a similar technique. It's just going the opposite way. So go ahead and thread your needle, and we're going to go to this outside stitch. The easiest way that I've found to find the outside stitch instead of grabbing from the back, we do want to grab from this front stitch. Go to this first couple of columns here, go back one. I've got a column that has a knit one below, or actually it's a purl one below. And then go over 1 more column. You can see a knit column, and then we want to go to this outside stitch here that's close to the bind off. So we're just going to pull through. This is the only time we're going through 1 stitch, and this is just to get our tail in the right position and hold it to the back. And now we're going to go to the back panel, and you see this stitch that's coming from the bind off here, this last stitch. There's a column right here, and that's attached to this stitch, and it's going to be easier to just go over one more. So don't go to the column that's lining up with this stitch that's on the holder. Go one more over. This one happens to have that purl one below, and there is a stitch down below here, and there are 2 loops. It may look like 1 loop, but it's actually 2 right here. Okay, there we go. That was that roving yarn. Okay, so pull through both of those stitches at the same time, all the way through. Make sure and get that other little held stitch out of the way. And you can leave your yarn nice and loose in case you have to redo this. We're going to pull it tight later. And then we're going to come to the front panel here, go down where you had your yarn come out before, and you're going to come up and grab the 2 stitches from this column. 1, 2, and this is this column right here. Go through there. And once you have this lined up right, you should be able to keep doing the same technique all the way down. And we're going to go until we have 2 columns before it stair steps, and then I'll show you how to change it up a little bit to work this angle. All right, coming back up here, go to this next knit column right where that yarn came out, go through 2 stitches and pull through. So continue doing that. Pause your video as you need, and I'll meet you back up when you have 2 columns before the stair step. All right, I have 2 columns left. I'm going to come down here, and instead of going to the stitch right below my bind off, I'm going to go 1 more column or 1 more row down further, and that's going to put us closer to this line down here. Go ahead and pull that on through, and then go up to the next one, and you're going to go right up where this, if you've got a purl one below here, you'll actually go right through that. So below was a stitch here, but I want to go into this one. So it's a little more difficult, but that's okay. Just pull it right on through, and then now we're going to go down to our front panel here. Sorry, I'm using the wrong yarn for this. It has flex in it. We're going to go down to this column, and instead of coming to where 1 stitch above, or it's technically 2 stitches above the bind off, we're going to go 1 more, and you can see that this actually lines up with all these stitches by this bind off here on the front panel. So go ahead and pull that on through and come up here, and you can see where your yarn came out before, and that would be a stitch, but we want to go up 1 more stitch, and this will be in line with these here. And so now you are lined up to continue on all the way down. So see how this one now on this front panel, try not to split my yarn here, this one lines up, and then come up here, and this one lines up. So continue down until you have no more columns to go through, and put your yarn to the back, and I'll show you what we do here. See you soon. All right, so down to the end, gonna go down to where it looks like I'll pick up 1 more stitch, but I'm just gonna go to the back, okay? And you can leave that long. Go ahead and pull on both of your tails at the same time. This is where having a nice strong yarn comes into play. Pull it tight, and you can see we have a nice beautiful seam. You can go ahead and weave those tails in, and when we come back, grab your loom and we'll work on this other side together. See you soon. All right, we have our shoulder done. We're going to come to the opposite side and do the other shoulder. So you can open it up and put the back just away from everything. And we'll be working on picking up stitches along this neck edge and working towards where we had sewn up before. So you want to remember that we are going to sew up our shoulders later on. So this first row right above where they the bind off was, we need to make sure and accommodate for some spacing there. So when we place this on our loom, don't use this very first stitch along the corner, but use the very next one. So want to get your loom out, and any of your stitches are going to go up inside the middle of the loom, and they're going to be placed on that first stitch there. And I've gone ahead and put a stitch marker and just put it right on top of the loom here, and then we're going to knit that stitch. So grab your yarn and make a nice tail, and we're just going to U-wrap knit, that's the stitch, and just pick the whole thing up and knit. Okay, so that is picking up a stitch. We're basically making a stitch out of nothing along the edges here, okay? And then we're going to pick up stitches evenly all the way down until where this stitch holder is, and we need 12 stitches, and this is all of the patterns, okay? So all of the sizes, we need 12. And go ahead and grab your stitch marker or stitch holder here and pull up this very first stitch so you can see something. You see how this yarn is attached here? We need to make sure that our stitch doesn't come in the middle of these two columns here. We want to make sure our next stitch or our very last stitch before this comes out about right here, okay? So keep that in mind when you're pulling stitches. Don't wait until it's right up next to it, or else it won't look good on the front of the neck of your collar, okay? So you can come along here and start picking up stitches, and if it's easier for you on the Flexi Loom, you can actually take these pegs off. You can count out how many stitches you need, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like this, and just work very easily and see exactly where these need to be moved. So you can even move them like this. It's really cool. So let's do the next one. Go ahead and grab a stitch right next to it, and you're going to place them up on the loom, and you can see where the yarn came from. Go ahead and get the next one, put it right up on there, place it, and then you wrap knit that, lift up and over, okay? You can pull tight there. Okay, let's go to the next one and put that right in there. You can even put 2 in at a time if you need to, but I wouldn't do them every other stitch for very long because you'll run out of stitches here. Make sure you get 2 stitches at least on the outside of that. And I'll just go ahead and wrap these both and do them. And knit over. And knit over. Okay. And then keep going. All right, so go ahead and pick up these stitches here, and of course the Flexi Loom is nice because you can bend that, have a little bit more room, and knit over. Make sure you have 12 stitches. Pause your video, and I'll meet you back up at this point here. See you soon. All right, we've got our 12 stitches, and now we are where our stitch holder is. So you can just start pulling these stitches back up onto your loom. Just place them right on there, and go ahead and take off that first stitch from your stitch holder. Okay, and you can just continue to put all of them on. I have 15 on mine here. I just like to lift on both of these and make that loop a little bit bigger. It may have gotten pushed down a little bit, and then just pull it with that yarn and then let it come out. And after you do a couple, you could just kind of work them as you go. You're just going to knit each one of these stitches from the holder right onto your knitting. So continue adding these, going all the way down until you get all your stitches. Go ahead and count and confirm you have the right number, and then meet me back on this other side for picking up more. Pause your video and I'll see you there. All right, so we've added these stitches here for the front of our neck, and that was 15 for my size, which is also 15 for the medium as well, so small and medium, and then it's 17 stitches for the 4 larger sizes. Now we have the right front of our neck over here. Okay, so of course the right-handed video, this is the right front. If you're on the left, it's the other side. And we just need to add on 12 stitches just as we did before. So you're just going to pick up right after this stitch that you just did, place that right on here and knit, same as before, and get 12 stitches going all the way across until you get to this point here. So if you want to go ahead and take off the part of your loom to make it easier, you can count to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and that's 11, and then one more is 12. So we won't do all of these stitches. We'll go all the way to here, and that'll end at this point here. So be sure you're keeping it nice and even along here. All right, go ahead and do that. Pause your video, and I'll meet you here. All right, so I've gone ahead and added all 12 of my stitches, picking those up, and made sure and tightened up all my stitches to make sure we don't have anything really loose in one area and tight in another. Another thing you can do before moving on is flip this over and make sure this looks nice and even and consistent on this side as well as the side that you did already. And if you did have trouble picking up the stitches, you can use a crochet hook. And what you do in that case is you just put the crochet hook through where you would be laying it directly onto your loom, and you just put the hook in and then wrap your yarn around the hook and then pull it straight on through that hole and then place the loop onto your loom and then tighten. Okay, so that's how you can pick those stitches up if it's too tight for you. All right, so I'm going to take this one off because I've got all 12 that I need. Double check your count and let's move on. We're now going to start placing on these stitches on the back panel. So let's get the rest of my loom here. I'm going to connect this back on here. Okay. And in this case, let's go ahead and look at the pattern. So we've done the left front neck edge, and we did the marker, picked up the 12 stitches, and placed them on, knitting them. Then we did the front 15 of the neck that we had been holding, or 17. And then we added in the 12 more stitches on the other side on the front, on the right front neck. Okay, now we're at the back where it says place 13 or 14 stitches from your stitch holder onto loom and you knit each. Okay, so you're only doing about half of them, and this is for the flat panel collar or the circular one, the collar and the round. So either one, we're going to work with the first 13 stitches for small, medium, and 14 stitches for the larger sizes. I suggest getting a stitch marker, going ahead and counting out the 13, and when you hit that 13 and you've got them knitted, pause your video and or unpause your video rather, and meet me back up and we will do an increase together. See you soon. All right, I've worked my stitches. I had marked where I needed to stop, and now our directions say skip one peg and place next stitch on peg after skipped stitch or skipped peg, and then we're going to increase the stitch with Kfpb, so a knit front purl back. So we're going to increase this stitch and we're going to put it onto this empty stitch that's in between. The reason why we're doing this is because of the way the yarn increases and moves. We have to play with how the yarn moves. So let's do that now. So go back here and pick up one more stitch, skip this one, and pull it all the way down here. Okay. Okay, now that's on there. We have a skip stitch, and now we want to Kfpb, so we're just going to put the yarn on the top and go underneath that loop, pull downward for a stitch, place that new stitch or new loop on top of the skipped peg, pull on my yarn, and now we want to take the yarn to the front underneath that peg here, okay, the one that we had moved it to, and then we're going to purl. So just purl right up, take that old one off and tighten it, and now you're ready to place on the remaining stitches. Now this is where the pattern changes, so let's go and look at it for your options on flat or in the round. All right, we're down at the bottom of our page for flat panel collar, number 1, or number 2, collar in the round. This is the cowl collar in the round. So if you're doing the flat panel, you're going to place the remaining stitches onto your loom, and you have enough of your stitches or pegs in order to do that. Now you can have it look like it's in the round and these are connected. There could be extra spaces in between. I don't know what your loom has, but you just need to make sure, and you're going to continue working in a flat panel, so back and forth. If you need to put a stitch marker, you got your first stitch over here, and then if you need a stitch marker at the end here to mark your last stitch, then that's fine too. If you're using a flexi loom, you would have one more connector than I have here, and so you'll have a blank peg in between, sort of like we did on our sleeve that you saw. We had that blank peg on there, the empty one. Okay. And so I'll pick up the directions here in a moment on what you do there, but we just need to place the remaining stitches on there. Now for the collar with the cowl, okay, this is in the round, we're going to place 12 stitches onto the loom, and you knit those, and both of those have that you knit. And then you're going to place the last stitch above the stitch with a marked peg down here. Okay, so there's going to be one more stitch on your stitch holder than will fit on this here. This will get connected in the round again, and then that last stitch will actually go right on top of this. Okay, and then I'll go over with you what to do next. All right, pause your video and I'll see you in a moment. All right, we're down at the end, and of course mine's going to go in the round, so I have one more stitch. I need to connect my loom here. Go ahead and connect this. And if you had a flat panel, then you should have yours with one left over if you're using the Flexi Loom. So go ahead and place this on. The last stitch goes on top of the, make sure I'm turning it the right way here. Yeah, there we go. The last stitch goes on top of the first peg, and then pull that stitch marker off. All right, so now we're ready to begin our first row here. So let's look at the pattern. So if you are working the flat panel collar, all right, what you'll do now is you're going to knit. You're going to be working back in the opposite direction, and it's like you're working on a row 4, if you want to see that as a row 4. And then you're going to begin on row 1. It'll put you back in your starting position to do your setup row, and you work back and forth in the collar for 7.5 inches, okay, or 19 centimeters, or to your desired length if you want it shorter than that. And you're going to end on a row 2, which is right after you do a patterned row, and then just bind off loosely and go ahead and sew in or weave in your remaining stitch, okay? And then you can seam that up later, or you can seam it up partially, and we can talk about that later on. I'll show you an example of the one that has the seaming on it. And if you want to leave it open, I would suggest doing the one that has the regular stitch pattern, not the alternate stitch pattern. But if you're going to sew it up like a cowl and you just want to work it back and forth, and you do want to have a nice way to sew it, you could use the alternate method. You could knit on the first and last peg of row 2, just as we did on the sleeve, and it gives you a little bit easier way to sew it up, and it's a little bit less bulky of a seam. So there's that. Now if you're doing the cowl in the round, let's jump over here and I'll show you how to do that. You've already finished up to this point here, and now we want to do the next row, which is knit 2 together and then knit across. Okay, we're on peg 1. We're just going to put our yarn on top of here, and we're going to knit these 2 together. Now it's really a SSK because the left one is on here first on my right-handed knitting. It doesn't really matter. We're just working those stitches together. And we want to just pull on that beginning tail just to make sure it's nice and tight. It was a little loose on mine. Okay, and now you're just going to knit all the way in the round. You're going to go in one direction all the way around and work that round 1. Well, this next row is what it says on our pattern, and come back when we get to the end of that, and I'll show you how to begin your next round. We'll see you soon. Okay, so now we're coming to the end of our round, and we want to start the textured pattern in the round, which eliminates the extra stitches on the end. So all you need to do is start by slipping with the yarn in front of the peg on the first peg, and then knit the second one, and then repeat. So slip with the yarn in front of the peg, and then knit 1. Okay, and that sets you up for round 1, and then round 2 would be what you've done before. You just eliminate that extra purl that we had, and this will be purl 1 below, and then knit 1, purl 1 below, knit 1, and repeat it in the round, and then you have 2 rounds of knitted rounds. So that's it. Let's look at this pattern. So this is where we just went over this part here. We'll go over to the next page. Okay, so you're beginning on round 1, working the texture pattern as given for the back collar until it measures 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters or to the desired length, and ending on a round 2. So that's that patterned row after you do your purl 1 below. And then you're going to be binding off loosely knitwise. So you're just going to have a nice loose bind off. If you need it looser and you tend to be really tight, you can use an E-wrap for your knit stitches instead of U-wrap knit, and then weave in your tail. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about the rest of it and all different collar styles, as well as show you an example. So go ahead and work the length that you want, bind off in the round or bind off in a flat panel, and I will see you soon. I do have an alternate in this pattern. You can see that in my original, the neck is, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell in this video here, but this neck doesn't have any shaping to it. It's just a nice open cowl here. And if you have wool, it's going to stretch just a little bit over time. But this one, what I did is I made it a little bit more shapely. And if you have the Flexi Loom, it's actually really easy to reduce the stitches on either side. You can actually reduce it more like a turtleneck if you wanted, or something very thin if you'd like. I only did it a few inches in all the way around, and I think it has this nice shapely edge, and I will give you a bonus on the inside of this video on how to do that for yourself if you want. I would recommend that you try it on yourself. Just put it right over your head with the loom on there if you want to check that out. If you have an acrylic sweater, you may not want to do that at all, but definitely for something with the wool content, this is going to be kind of an open, wider neck if you don't do that. Okay, so you can see that this one is more generously sized than this one. Okay, that's completely up to you. I want you to see that this is an open, very open cowl. This is a wide neck sweater. Okay, so it's very wide neck, and you will be have more skin exposed here. So if you want to close it up, whether for winter or for modesty, and it is a modest sweater, but because the cowl is going to be so tall, but if you want it to get a little bit smaller, after you do maybe a couple of rounds of this one, you could eliminate one of your 2-peg pieces on either side, right where your shoulder is, and move your stitches here, and then work these two together on a knit row and just decrease those stitches. So that would be completely up to you, and I would do it on either side, right where the shoulders are here, and on the other side. And you're just going to be moving the stitches outward and taking this particular link off, and work that on a knit round to reduce your stitches if you want to make it smaller. And that's something that you would have to test on yourself to see if it's the right size. I'm just going to take it right at my shoulders here, okay? And you can see how the seam is lining up right here. I'm going to take out this link, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take these 2 stitches off of my loom. We have 1, 2, and just let them fall back. This is just a standard, it's kind of J style cable needle. And then now I can take out my link. And that was just a lot easier to do it that way. And then we can just click it back in, and then go ahead and put these stitches on either side here. So this one over here is going to have the stitch on the bottom, so that will be an SSK, and this one here will be a K2 tog, knit 2 together. So this is a right leaning and a left leaning decrease. And so when we come around, we're going to knit in the round, and when we come back to them, we will work those stitches together, and we can actually go ahead and knit this one, and that will just be part of that first round. So lift up and over, and then continue working until you get to the other side where the shoulder is, and we'll do that one as well. Okay, so I have my shoulder seam here, and I'm going to work up until the shoulder seam, or 1 stitch before it, which is right here. That way I can have this stitch on this peg over here, okay? And then this one is going to go on this one over here, and we'll get rid of this darker link here. So go ahead and do what we did before. Just pick up those 2 stitches and then let it hold at the back. Take off the link, click it back in, and then go ahead and lay those stitches on top. All right, and then you have a left and right leaning decrease. It's all set up for you. And go ahead and work those 2 stitches together, and then the next 2 stitches together, and then continue working in the round. This is a round 4, and then the next round will be a patterned round, or a setting up for the patterned round. We can look underneath and see what this will look like. And you can see how there's our shoulder, and then there's our first couple of rounds on our pattern, and then I did 1 round of knit, and then I did another round where I'm making the decrease here. So it's close to my shoulder, and it starts kind of gathering and making it smaller here. Okay, so just continue that as you would, and we'll see you when you get to the right length. See you soon. Okay, so we have finished our cowl, except we've got one last tail to work, and we need to connect this in the round so it's nice and smooth. And all I did was I knit over my last 2 stitches, just the 1 over the 2, and then cut my yarn, pulled it through, and so we just need to connect. So we'll do that in a moment, and then we will sew up this shoulder here. This is the second shoulder, and if you want to, you can do this one before you do the cowl, and then you might have to reinforce this part here where they connect. That's totally fine. I just wanted to mirror what the needle version was that we converted, and we're going to show those 2 things in a minute. But let's look over, now that you've seen it in the round with no seam, we're going to look at the needle version which had a seam on it, and of course you can do that on your loom. It's made in a flat panel, working back and forth. So if you did this version, you are going to see the seam on the inside. See, it's a little bit bulky. If you made it without that extra purl stitch on the edge, then it may be a little bit lessened than this. Now, I do have a video for reference if you want to look at that one, and it shows you making this second shoulder here and sewing it all the way up to the top of the cowl. So it's about a 10-minute video. If you'll click down in the links below, it's from minute 17 and 55 seconds all the way to minute 27 and 50 seconds. So it's about 10 minutes long, and you have all that you need to finish off this part of the pattern right there. So yeah, just make your decision that way, and you can consult other videos to make an I-cord and attach some toggle buttons here, and maybe put them through here. You don't need a buttonhole or anything. You can just put them right through on a toggle button closure for here and here if you want to do that, or leave it splayed open, or of course sew it all the way there too. So let's go ahead and finish off the top of this collar, and then we're going to do the shoulder. See you in a moment. All right, we have our tapestry needle and our remaining tail. It's coming from right here, and I'm going to draw a figure 8. So a figure 8 would go here like this. Okay, so if I'm drawing a figure 8, I want to go from here. I'm going to go around and down, and then back again through here, and then finish it off. Okay, so it goes up. So let's do that now. So we've got this one. So I'm going to go, it's on the bottom here. So I'm going to go across and up to this little V stitch here. This is a chain here. So you can see you have chains across here. We want to make sure we're going into the right part. So if I do this, I can see my chains going through the top. Okay, so we're going to go here through to the front, and then we're going to go around. So we went up and down and around. So we're going to cut across here again. It makes an X shape. Go through this V stitch down here. So I have 1 and 2. Okay, so these are the little chains here. Actually, see, we need to look at this. This is the chain. So it's actually here and here. All right. And then we're going to go through that. Pull it. Okay, Hasn't totally been completed yet, so we went up and around and here, and then we're going to go back again. So I'm just going to go back through here where I went before to the back and then pull. And then it's, apart from that fuzz there, now you can see that it has created this little stitch here and continuing on, and then we can go into the inside and find where we can go underneath the purl bump. Okay, make sure this is the right consistency here, right tension. I'm going to go under another purl bump, find my way down here. We're on the inside, and we're just going to trace around this little umbrella here, and then come down through that one, and come around and trace it, that little smile, and come up, and go around. So this is just the classic way of making a duplicate stitch type of weaving a tail. If you need another video on that, I'll put a link down below. And it just hides that tail really well, and you can see this looks nice and complete. Okay, so now that you know how to do that, continue weaving it in a few more inches and come back so it locks into place. Trim that off, and we will work on our shoulder. See you in a moment. All right, we're on the other side, the second shoulder, and I'm going to start from the outside in, so the armhole. It does have the purl bump on the outside, so you're going to be noticing that. And the benefit of working this way is twofold. One, we're going to be working towards this area, so where we can see if we need to reinforce it and finish off. And also working this way, you're on the bottom of the stair step, so actually you're going to be working those stitches right alongside the bind off on both sides. And then the first stitch over in this longer part, you're just going to stay on that same row one, and then the next column you go down one row, and then the next ones you're right along the bottom edge of that bind off. So it's actually easier when you're going from the lower part to the taller part or the higher part. So let's do that now. Be sure and look at your columns. So we have this one column here and the one next to it that has the purl one below. And so we want to pull the outside stitch right here. This is the only time we go through one, and hold your tail at the back. And then go to the back panel and find the columns. So we have this column here, and then we have these stitches here. And here's one set of stitches, and we're going to go right underneath that. And that's the one that has the purl one below. Just go through those. And remember, this edge is going to be a little bit more raw because that's where we're going to be sewing our sleeve in. This is that armhole. All right, so we've done the top part on the back panel, and now we're going to go to the front panel again and go down to where our stitch came out before, our yarn, and get that first column there, both stitches, pull all the way through, and then go to our back panel, do the same thing, go to that next column over, go through both stitches and pull, and then come down, right down where our yarn was, and you can see those stitches, pull it through and continue on, and I'll meet you at this point here where we're going to the stair step part. See you in a moment. All right, so I'm at the point where it started to do the angle, okay, and get some more stitches in here. So I've done the top part, and I'm going to come down here, and we're just following across, okay, and go one more over, and follow this one across, one more over. This is hitting where one of those purl bumps is, and then we're going to come down further towards the bind off. So find my stitch here, and I'm going to go one more down here, which is actually where one of those purls is. And I'm going to come over here and put my needle in right next to where that last stitch was that I did, and we want to come down one. Put that in there. And then we're going to come, let's see. Oh yeah, that one's a little bit, yeah, I did that right. Okay. Sorry about that. And then now I can come on this end at the front side, the front panel, and go to the very first stitch down here. So I've got it all the way stair-stepped, and then from here on out it's easier just following where those stitches are alongside that. And then my finger is stuck in this little hole here, kind of giving support at the back. You'll of course run out of room there, so I'm just going to put my hand through the opening here to get a little bit of support. Okay, here's this last stitch here. Come across to the back. Just going to let it keep going. I'm not going to pause the video or anything. You can run this on slow motion if you need to see that better. And just study your stitches. Now you can see that this is a little bit loose. I have a stitch that's loose here, but if I pull it in the back and the inside, you can see this part tighten up. That's because that's that tail there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this part because there's actually a hole here. I want to find the next stitch, and that's the very last one on here. You'll have to feel for this. It's just going to be harder to see. Okay. And it's right near that corner. Push the corner back in, and then find this very last stitch down here. Okay. And so now I'm going to go through one more of these stitches on, let's see, on the cowl. And I'm going to go through another stitch here, and then go ahead and underneath these two, and I'm just going to reinforce it because I can see my finger back here, and so I'm just going to go down back through that stitch that I just came up through, put it to the back because I want to use that to pull from. And so I'm just pulling it to the inside here and grabbing this tail, and then we're going to go to the other end of the shoulder and grab the other side of this tail, and we're just going to pull that tight. Sorry, you're hearing my hand pop. And that's it. So I have pulled that nice and tight, and you can see that shoulder seam is in there really well. I can't see any of the brown from my yarn, and then right here is where I finished it off. There's that corner there, and it's pretty seamless. You can't, well, there's a seam, but you don't notice any holes or anything. It's really well done. So now all you need to do is turn your work inside out and just sew in these tails. You can sew them right into the seam, or sew them in to the back here. If you've got a different contrasting yarn, I would just sew it directly into the seam, make it nice and long, and then trim it off. And there you have your shoulders and your cowl done. Well, I hope you enjoyed learning how to pick up stitches and put the stitches back onto the loom, and also learn how to make this in the round, the cowl in the round. And if you tried the reducing the stitches, please let me know. This is what mine looked like. I went ahead and when I got to the fourth round on a knit row, I went ahead and did the reduction. So I did an SSK or a K2 tog and then an SSK, and then I did another 4 rounds, and on that 4th round I went ahead and reduced the stitches again. So I reduced 4 stitches on this side on 2 different rounds, and then 4 stitches on this side. So it's gone in about 3 inches because we've got 8 stitches, and so depending on how many stitches per inch. Anyway, I think it's nice. It makes it a little bit a smaller of a neck here, but I like not having too much of an open neck, especially if you have a wool yarn and it causes it to stretch out a little bit over time. I don't want a man could wear this, but for a woman, it definitely, I wouldn't want to see any kind of straps or anything like that. So especially for a men's garment, you would want to reduce this in as well. I'd go for more of a turtleneck look rather than something that's just too wide. I think it has a nice shape to it this way. So I hope you enjoyed that, and be sure and check me out for the next video where we add on our sleeves in part 6.
Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.